Ooh, I almost got myself. I was muted there for a moment, but I caught it. Ha ha! How's it going, everybody? Good to see everyone. I almost pulled an Irish demon there, but I caught it in time. Man, my beard is wily today. Oh, I even tried to groom it a little bit, but it's just doing its own kind of wildling thing. I belong on Game of Thrones. Good to see everybody. Hope everybody is doing well. I know this is unprecedented. I have two back-to-back live streams. I had a live stream yesterday and a live stream today. I never do this, but something special that I finally got coordinated, and I'm extremely excited about this one. So I'm a little giddy. I'm a little kind of fanboying out a little bit. So and I'm laughing. You'll know why I'm laughing here in a minute. But before we get started, before we jump into the big thing today, the conversation we're going to have, say hi to whoever we got in the live chat. I see we got a bunch of people here, so let's run through them real quick. I see Elizabeth Sylvester's here. Good to see you. Thanks so much. Who was first in the chat says, good to see you, JL. Hope you're well. I am doing very well, Elizabeth. Also a member of the Godless Army. Thank you so much for the support. And in regards to the prize that you won over on Week in Horror, Teespring doesn't give me like a shipping date. They only give me a printing date and when it ships. But an arrival time, I don't know where I could go and find. I probably could, but I probably have to like request that or something. I haven't had to go and look, but Teespring is variable, so it pretty much just depends on them. Sometimes there's delays, sometimes it goes out really, really fast. But yeah, but hopefully I will get a notification when it goes out to you, so I will know that. Let me see here. I got Ida Pimp Udaho here as a member of the Godless Army. Says, how's it going, JL? It's going quite well. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ida Pimp. Good to see you. Mr. Andrad, also a member of the Godless Army. Thanks so much for being here. Says, live is JL's best side. I can't say have a good stream. Thank you so much, Mr. Andrad. Thanks for popping in. Commander Darklight is in the house, another member of the Godless Army, a longtime supporter of the channel and of our podcast. Good to see you, Commander Darklight. Thanks so much for being here. Randy Hatmaker is here. Good to see you, Randy. Says hello, everyone. And I see MCToon down there in the chat. Good to see you, MCToon. Cindy Sue as well, member of the Godless Army. Thanks so much for being here. Brian Powell and Charlie Welch, both members of the Godless Army. And Charlie Welch, the only man on the internet you never make a bet with. Good to see you, Charlie. Mr. Welchie, good to see you. Thanks so much for being here. Tony Regime as well. Good to see you. And I see Repo Sandman's hanging out. Good to see you, Repo. Dib as well, member of the Godless Army. Thanks so much for being here. Random Name Generator, always good to have you. And I see Koala Squadron's in the house. There we go. Koala. No fucks given, because that's what koalas do. Sorsha Red Hair is here. Good to see you, Sorsha, member of the Godless Army. Feral Cat, KCA Randy, Vesta Freya, all very... so excited to have you here. Thanks so much for being here. And Basic Trigonometry is in the house. Oh, I so rarely see you, but thanks so much for popping in, Basic. Love having you here. So, all these amazing people here, and I'm going to throw up the banner. Thank you to all the channel members who help to support this channel and make it possible. And my Atkinson is here. Is it safe to be in here today? Yes, it is safe to be in here today. It's going to be amazing. Thank you so much, Maya, for popping in. Member of the Godless Army as well. And if you're interested in supporting the channel, you can. The link is in the description. You get access to all of the cool emojis that I made for you, like Hail Sagan and Darth Dawkins with red duct tape on his face and crying Otangelo. I made a whole bunch of cool ones. You can use them in the chat. And of course, as a channel member, you get access to the channel badge, which is the expanding mind meme. So the longer you're with me, the more your mind expands. See what I did there? So thank you all so much for hanging out. So without further ado, I've wasted enough time. Hey, Hill Hugger, Angel Rivera, good to see you both. Thanks so much for being here. I'm going to go ahead and bring it up. This is a conversation that has been long in the making. I am incredibly excited to have it because he is a very, very busy man, whether he is like debunking flatards all over the world or he is apparently skiing in the fucking Alps like a friggin' champion. Let's go ahead and bring him up. MCToon is in the house.
Hello, it's not the Alps, it's Afton Alps. Which is in a suburb of the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, so definitely not very Alpsy. But hello, welcome to myself. I'm glad to be here. It has been a long time in the making.
It has been. It's been a minute. You know, it's amazing because you're from Minnesota, yeah. And over on our podcast, our horror film podcast, Week in Horror, one of our co-hosts, Alex, is also from Minnesota. Now, I'm not saying that all Minnesotans know each other, although I wouldn't be surprised if you did.
Alex, yeah, I know Alex. We go way back.
But born and raised in Minnesota, goes up there all the time to revisit family, but all his family is up there. But it's just cool that running into two people in my, kind of the circles that I run in, two people from Minnesota. I'm willing to bet you two are probably close to each other, where y'all are. But, yes, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here, bud. This has been a long time in the making. I've wanted to get MCToon on the channel for a very, very long time. I just to kind of preface this, when I started kind of moving into YouTube, before I even began, I had a YouTube channel for the past 13 years, and I never did anything with it. I thought about doing something with it, but I had it there, but I was like, I'm not going to do. I just uploaded some things, but they never went anywhere. So I was like, man, I'm just not going to use YouTube. Kicking myself for that now, but now. I got back into it about 2018. I started really kind of following people, and what caught me originally was Team Skeptic. Team Skeptic got me. Team Skeptic invariably led me to Fight the Flat Earth, and Fight the Flat Earth led me to individuals like Red's Rhetoric, and of course you. And so your approach was always really, really intriguing because you never flip out. You don't flip out. You don't. I mean, while we all make fun, while we all have our fun, we all have our entertainment. I really appreciated the fact that you did not fly off the handle. You allowed the other person the opportunity to speak, and you tried to approach it as evenly keeled as possible.
I tried.
So
there's been times.
I know there's been some trying moments.
Yeah.
But you're always so even keeled because you understand the science. You know what's going on. You understand, but you also have a fundamental understanding of where they're coming from. So it's kind of like beating someone who is just so embedded in that position. There's no point because you know that beating them is not going to get them out of it. It's education, rationality, reason. Yeah. See what I did there? That helps to draw them out of that. Eventually, they'll have enough information that they'll start putting things together, and you allow them that opportunity, which I've always really admired and was very much kind of an inspiration for when I started really debating people about the things that I talk about, which is theistic topics, about theistic arguments and various things. Those positions, regardless of where you are, where people are on the theology spectrum. But I took inspiration from that. So realizing that just screaming at these people and be like, no, that's not how how a fallacy works. No, that's not logically entailed. So I appreciate you for that because you helped to inspire that approach, and that approach worked. So it's been very beneficial for me.
Thank you. You cut out a couple times there for me. I don't know if people on YouTube had that cut out, but I assume it was all good.
Yes, it was all good. So I apologize if I cut out a little bit. Like I said, I'm a bit excited. I'm happy to finally to have this. I see a few new people have joined us. People are excited that you're here. This is fantastic. Hill Hugger is here. Good to see you, Hill Hugger. Mr. Colby too as well. Said MCToon is killing it this year. You are fucking blowing up on TikTok. Could I get more TikTok notifications from you?
We've crossed each other in TikTok. I even found your secret cousin.
My secret cousin?
I think I tagged you. He's a Methodist pastor that kind of looks like you.
No.
I sent you the thing. I said,
how you gonna on TikTok?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I sent you that on TikTok or if it was on Discord, maybe. I don't know.
Let me see, because I have your messages right here. How are you gonna put this evil on me? Let me see here real quick.
Yes, I sent it to you on
I got the top left award. The top left awards.
It was on 8/18
of last year.
Yeah, you got to roll back a little bit there.
Oh, we got to roll back. There's that. Oh, I remember that when I sent you those pictures of those store-bought skull goblets that he had in the background.
Oh yeah,
I remember that debate that you were having. That was hilarious. MCToon show.
Yeah, you went too far. You went too far.
No, I'm still in December. December 29th, 2021. I got to go way back.
No, not that far. 2022.
Oh, 2022. Oh, my bad. Sorry, one sec. So 2022.
Let's see.
Excuse us while we look something up.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
Let me see here.
I'll send it again. Hold on. I'll send it again. There you go.
Okay, here we go. Jump to present.
Can I post it? Yes. People, I
what
posted
the
it in
hell?
the chat. Click on that. That's him. That's totally jail.
That's so not me. Hang on a second. That is so not me. How you gonna put this evil on me?
Bring it up.
How you gonna put that evil on me?
Look at him. That's JL.
How you gonna put that on me? What is that?
People, you got to do a poll. Is that your cousin?
That is not my cousin. That is not my cousin.
Your identical cousin.
Oh, that's hilarious. That is funny as hell. Oh, yeah. Abby Paulin says tech issues. Yeah, but we got to figure it out. Good to see you, Abby Paulin. And yes, JL and Mr. Toon. That's true. All right. And Lucian Darkwolf. Good to see you, Lucian. Thanks so much for being here. And Adam Strange as well. Good to see you, Adam. Thanks so much for being here as well. Man, so many people in here. All right. So, and hey, UKPI. Good to see you too. I have a real bad I don't know if it's a bad habit or a good habit of trying to say hi to everybody that pops in the chat. I'm so excited whenever people come in and watch my live streams, and I'm like, you're all validation. So I've given a lot of consideration as to how to approach this topic, because I know that for you've expressed it can be a bit sensitive in that regards, but I've always been very, very curious. So let's just start really, really simply. So when it comes down, despite you have your scientific background, you have your scientific understanding, you literally your content is science-based material, evidence-based material. That's what you focus on. That's what you do. It's what we love you for. But you were also a theist.
Yes.
So while that's a very blanket term, can you go into as much depth as you're comfortable in describing that?
Yeah. I grew up in a kind of a conservative Baptist, not quite like the Southern Baptist churches, but they use King James.
KJV, okay.
And I remember clearly in elementary school, in Sunday school, the teacher telling us that at some point in the future, they're going to ask us on a test about evolution. And he gave us the correct answer to write so that we got it correct according to his ideas, and maybe would still pass the test. They wouldn't just blanket fail us and send us off into, being kicked out of school because of it. So I had this weird, this sense that, oh man, if I get it wrong, if I have the wrong idea about evolution, I'm in trouble. Anyway, come back around. I that was kind of a rural town, and moved to the Twin Cities area here, and not such a conservative fundamentalist church, and so kind of moved away from that, and so I left that behind, kind of the super rigid stuff,
Mm-hmm.
And then I always liked science. I always liked especially computers. I started programming when I was in 7th grade.
Logical languages that fit.
Yeah. I went to college and majored in electrical engineering and computer science. And when I finished school, I'm like, well, I definitely like writing software. So that's what I've done. So, but I was in high school, and I'm like, this evolution stuff that so many people in the church are against, that's kind of dumb. It's just people's interpretation of it. So I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, that doesn't seem right. Why would people put such an emphasis on that? Because all it does is make people turn away. So I that kind of brought me to a little less strict looking at things. So yeah. Anyway, so to explain the box I'm in, I don't mind saying that I'm in a box, right? I'm an evangelical. I go to an evangelical covenant church. That's the denomination. The pastor is one of my best friends. My kids and their kids are best friends. But we differ on a bunch of stuff, especially evolution. I don't think that I'm not a young Earth creationist at all. I laugh. I kind of chuckle because he'll watch my flat Earth debunking videos, and we'll talk about it. We'll just kind of shake our heads like, oh, they start with the conclusion, and then they just look for stuff to support their conclusion, and we'll laugh about that. In the back of my head, I'm like, that's exactly what you do. And I poke at him about that, and we have a fine sense of humor.
Because you start with Genesis and then you work your way back in order to prove Genesis. So,
I know.
When we dedicate our time to these, we understand these things, whether it be the theory of evolution or any other particular theories. It's weird when the same amount of work and the same amount and like the decades of research that have gone into understanding like the theory of evolution, and they don't accept it or they refuse to accept it because it happens to impugn upon a particular belief that they hold that is validated by their God belief. And then they'll turn right around and they'll accept something like the theory of electroquantum dynamics, which is still decades and decades upon research, the same evidentiary process, the same methodological process of eliminating confirmation bias and eliminating false conclusions, stuff like this, and getting to the correct answer. The same process goes. So they're willing to that's what's wild to me, is the willingness to accept the tool for one particular thing because it doesn't you say anything about what they personally believe. So they're willing to accept a tool if it does this, but they're unwilling to accept the same tool if it does something different, which is obviously I think I got something on my glasses, which is obviously something like really problematic and is the result of what I perceive to be a great amount of the societal divides that we experience. And it's just unnecessary because, first and foremost, I've always stated, and I will agree with Francis Collins, who I'm pretty sure you're familiar with who that is. Francis Collins, former director of the National Institute of Health at Bethesda for like 16 years, was appointed by Obama, and former head of the Human Genome Project. So he is. I mean, we're talking that dude is deep science. Like deep genetics, microbiology, evolution, evolutionary biology, that's his bread and butter. Not to mention the National Institute of Health, being the director of that, medicine as well. So it's kind of like the guy's got the cred, but he's also a devout Christian. Now, in his book, he wrote, and I think I'm going to try and direct quote him here, but I may end up paraphrasing, is that in his book, The Language of God, he reconciles these two fields. That reason and logic cannot get you to a God belief. That it requires a leap of faith.
Yeah.
It requires you taking that jump that is complete, and he recognized that it's totally unjustified. Now, his story of his conversion, because he always considered himself kind of an agnostic, but his story of his conversion was that he was on a nature trail and he was hiking in December. It was off some resort. So he's taking this nature trail and he was by himself. And he's walking in the woods and it's all pretty and nice. And then he came across this river that had frozen in the late night freeze, and it had a little waterfall in it, and the waterfall had frozen into 3 streams. And he interpreted that in that moment as a sign of the Holy Trinity. And so he took that as kind of like a confirmation, and that kind of pushed him in that direction, and then just kind of settled on it. That legitimately it's an emotional thing. It's purely an emotional thing. This is what I accept because it's what does it for me. It provides that kind of psychological or emotional utility, and that's what it is. But it's not reason and logic that are ever going to get you there. Now, Francis Collins recognizes the break in the obvious break in that. Reason and logic and rationality have far less detrimental impact on things than irrational beliefs or emotion-based beliefs or beliefs on things that are unwarranted beliefs. They obviously one can have more of a devastating impact on society than the other. Yet still he's able to reconcile these things from this personal perspective. My curiosity is, with your level of scientific understanding, what we know about the universe, what we know about physics, what we know about quantum mechanics, what we know about the Earth, what we know about evolution, how these things are slowly revealing themselves as we get better and better and better technology. As we begin to see the universe for what it is, you're still able to reconcile these things, and that always struck me.
Yeah. I don't think that I don't see the conflict there, and I don't think you do either. But I think a lot of people see that, especially when they say, "Well, Genesis, my interpretation of Genesis says this," and that's in conflict with something else. Well, if your interpretation of something conflicts with reality, then either, or our understanding of reality is better to say, right? Then either your interpretation is wrong, or our understanding of reality is wrong, or both. And so a God that is powerful can't contradict reality, right? It's got to jive. That's our logic, though, and maybe our logic is wrong. I don't know. So I don't see a problem with that, but I like how you put it from your version of Francis Collins, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who he is, so but yeah, that sounds about right for me. That sounds about where I'm at. I have in the last couple of years, I have learned a lot of things and changed a bit, and realized some of the things that I used to hold were maybe a bit irrational. So I think, gotten rid of them. Maybe not all.
Changing as more evidence comes along. It's the most intellectually honest position you can take. Is that if new evidence comes along, we adopt it, we look at it, we examine it, we put it through its paces, and if it holds water, there you go.
Yeah.
So, which is the position of virtually any atheist, is that like any atheist who's like like has a rudimentary understanding of the philosophical concepts of these arguments that come along, is that the reality of it is, from what we have available to us as far as evidence goes, we don't see any justification that would, or any belief is unwarranted. There's no justification to believe these things. Asserting them is merely from an emotional or psychological standpoint. There is nothing extant in reality that says this particular thing is true, that this particular proposition is true. Now, does that mean it's not true? Absolutely not. Now, we can examine particular God traits. We can say that God is defined as such and has particular attributes, so we can examine the logical entailments of those attributes and how they entail logical contradictions and blah, blah, blah. But ultimately, deism in and of itself, the God that creates and then the God that doesn't interact, is completely unfalsifiable. We can't eliminate it from contention. Maybe, but as of right now, we can't do that at all. So deism, I completely understand. I can see people getting to deism. It has a psychological utility, and it can provide an emotional utility. And of course, it's unfalsifiable, so there's really no harm there. And you don't see people running around proselytizing and screaming in the middle of Times Square saying, believe in the God that doesn't do anything or you're going to go to hell. That doesn't exist. So, like, for example, the societal divisions caused by deism are far less than the ones caused by fundamentalist evangelism.
That's very true, very true. I had something I was thinking about there, but yeah.
Are you imagining a dude in Times Square with a microphone? My God is ineffectual. He doesn't do anything.
Yeah, that's not the kind of person that's going to be out there. So, yeah, and the people with the sandwich boards on the street corners.
Don't worry about it, because he's not worried about you.
So, I mean, and obviously Christianity isn't that. Deism is something different.
Mm-hmm.
So that there are, at the very least, some claims of specific things that have happened that violate, the laws of physics, as we understand them now, and things that are at least a little bit more than he doesn't get involved, right? That right. There are things that happen now that affect things that happen later. And they're unfalsifiable. They're just claims. And so you either get there through a non-rational process, feelings, emotions. I had an experience.
Could we say faith?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
That's completely. That's what it is. It takes that, and you don't get there without faith. You don't get there, like you said, the leap of faith. It has to happen,
right?
And I remember seeing a video from the banana guy,
Powell or Hovind. No,
the one that says the banana is the right grip.
Ray Comfort, banana hands, banana hands, yeah.
Him,
and Kirk Cameron.
I think it was it Kirk? I don't know. One of them was saying, well, we're going to share with you the proof that God exists. Like, no, you're not. But when I saw that, I'm like, okay, I really want that. Right? I think every deist, theist, whatever, really would love to see that. Because
blow the top off the Nobel Prize committee. Because as far as the Peace Prize go, they would be like, wow. So
yeah, and then he went through this thing, and it was essentially, if I remember right, it was like DNA is complicated, therefore God. I'm like, okay, that wasn't really it, was
it? Argument for complexity, yeah.
It didn't satisfy me, and it didn't, take away my faith. But I'm like, that wasn't the bolster that you sold.
That's a big thing, that the issue that I have right now. The current video that I'm working on is Matt Powell. So Matt Powell released a video, and yeah, I know it's low hanging fruit, but it was but I felt that it was really important, because what I've discovered is a common tactic amongst a lot of these individuals is that they will create content on YouTube and they will couch a particular subject that they don't like LGBTQ, evolution, something else. They will couch that in a topic that really no one wants to touch. So they'll couch LGBTQ in the topic of CP, pedophilia, stuff like that. Or they'll couch evolution with Hitler. Or they'll do other stuff. And the reason they do that, and we know it's disingenuous. There is no line that gets you from that gets you from Darwin to the Holocaust. There is no line that gets you there. But they assert that there is. But the reason that they do this, the reason they've taken these tactics, is because they expect us to not want to broach that. Because it's very difficult to try and demarcate their lies from the historical truth without sounding like a sympathizer or a historical, revisionist in that respect. Like, I have to say that what you're doing is wrong, well, then the other side of it is still wrong, without sounding like I'm trying to reduce the impact of one thing while still maintaining the sincerity of saying why you're wrong. It's very, very, it's very dangerous waters, and people risk their reputation, so people will just ignore them. But that's what they bank on. That's what they want. So they couch these things to try and ward off critique, because it's just as we should be as wary. Kind of like, oh, I'm going to tackle Hitler in order to show that evolution does. It's like, oh, this is insane. So. But it has to be.
You can't come out on a positive pro for that side.
No, you can't.
And if you argue that, then are you support? No, I'm not.
So, okay, historical philosopher brings up Hitler was a Catholic who was backed by the Catholic Church. After doing about 36 hours of study and reading way more about the Führer that I wanted to read, and knowing way more about World War II than I ever wanted to. I can tell you it's a bit more complicated than that. It's decidedly more complicated than that. It's really think of it like this. Hitler was a cult leader who cherry-picked from theology, from science, from philosophy, and a number of other things. He basically heard a bunch of minds all around him, and all these great minds that he had access to, and he cherry-picked their stuff. And predominantly it wasn't Darwin, it was Hegel. Hegel's interpretations of Darwin's theories of what really inspired him and his whole kind of superiority to the Aryan race. So he cherry-picked a whole bunch of stuff and then formulated this kind of neo-paganistic, monist, kind of German superiority of the heroic age kind of thing in his head, where there was God as divine providence and he was the tool of that God on earth. It's psychobabble. It's psycho nonsense is what it is. But he was a megalomaniacal cult leader. That's what they do. He just happens to be a megalomaniacal cult leader who happened to achieve world power. That's, or a genocidal cult leader that achieved world power. So that's where it's really, really complex. But I cover all that in my latest video, which is just because someone has to take them on because they don't want us to. That's the whole big point. But we recognize this. This is all emotional manipulation. That's where it all comes from.
Yeah.
Is that they want to emotionally manipulate their audiences because it comes from an emotional place. They have no evidence to back up their positions. While they can say, I believe it because I feel it's real, but I have nothing to back it up. Obviously, that takes all the wind out of their sails. So they're never going to admit that. But here's my big question.
I wish they would.
I wish they would. Yes, the best debate I ever had was one that Johnny O set up. And I got down and I was sitting down with this theist. And so we're going back and forth about the existence of God. And the debate eventually boiled down. And this is one of the few that I'm saying that I'm proud that I lost. Because we got down to the brass tacks of it. And he literally just came out and said, well, I know this position is unjustifiable. I know it's unjustified. I hold it purely for emotional reasons. It provides something for me, but I don't assert it's true to anybody else. I don't evangelize. I don't proselytize. He said, he's just like, that's it. It's just like, I just hold it as a personal thing to be true, and I can't back it up because it's only my feelings. And I was like, well, I got nothing. Because I'm not going to argue with with your imagination in that respect. You can imagine whatever you want. You can believe as you please. Just don't go run around trying to influence the legislation that we all live under. And he doesn't do that. And I was like, wow. So I was like, I was done. It was like, okay, I guess that's it. He got my legs out from underneath me by being intellectually honest. It's like there's no more debate. So, historical philosophers challenge is not really trained at university by one of the foremost experts in Nazi Germany and Hitler, and wasn't even a contention. Hitler was Catholic. He was definitely born Catholic. I get into it in my video. So there's a lot of back and forth, from Speer and a number of other biographers who are around him in his intimate circle. It's a different topic. I was using it to try and illustrate something else. But so here's the big thing on this. Predominantly the content that you do, you deal with individuals who have no evidence to back up what they say, the claims they make, and they have a profound misunderstanding of current science or current evidence. They're interpreting it wrong. They don't know how to interpret it. So it's as much about education as it is a willingness to admit that one is wrong, because they feel that admitting that they're wrong is somehow a weakness. So there's a bunch of failings there on their part. But that's what you approach. So we know, you and I and other people know, they're coming at this from an emotional position. When I went to the Flat Earth International Conference, and I didn't go out there with a camera, I just wanted to go out there. I probably should have, but I wanted to go out there and just talk to these people. So I was up in Frisco, went out there and just wandered around and talked to various individuals. I found a few people who were like in my face angry. How dare you question, 9/11 was an inside job. So, just real hardcore conspiracy theorists. But the vast majority of the people that I spoke to were very sad, very disenfranchised, some of them very angry just at the system, at their lives, whatever. And a lot of them I found were just clinging on to something that gave them validation. This is totally an emotional thing for them. They felt alone in the world. They grabbed onto the last thing that they possibly could, a community of fellow outcasts. And instead of playing D&D, they all believe the earth is flat. So, in that respect, no disrespect to D&D. I was an outcast who played D&D too, so. So, a lot of them...
I haven't played since middle school with the actual book and stuff. But yes, I was Dungeon Master the last time.
Very cool. I'm not a fan of what WotC or Wizards of the Coast is doing these days. I'm not a fan of their kind of like their decision-making.
I didn't know anything about that until I did an invasion stream where the guy was big into that. And then he talked about that and what's his name? Oh, I forgot. Tony. Tony came. Dr. Tony. I can't remember his name. From Australia.
PhD Tony.
PhD Tony. Oh my gosh. Tony, I'm sorry. Don't tell him that I forgot. PhD Tony came on, and then they just talked about it and had this great back and forth. And I'm just like, hey, this is all cool stuff. Anyway, I didn't know anything about it till then, so.
Yeah, it's I'm not a fan of it, but I'm a big sucker for a second edition advanced. Love it. So I'm my heart will always be D&D and Rifts, Palladium system, which is Rifts and Ninjas and Super Spies, stuff like that. But I love Palladium. I used to run Palladium myself, and D&D I grew up playing. So these outcasts, who this is kind of like, they view themselves as societal outcasts. Instead of doing cool things like sitting around a table and rolling the dice, they instead go to conventions, travel all over the country, and they believe the earth is flat based on whatever reasons they have, whether they may be biblical or not. The whole point of where I'm going with this is these people believe these things from an emotional position.
Yeah.
Not from a logical, reasonable, or an evidentiary position. Which and I don't want this to sound. It sounds so bad in my head, so I'm just going to try and rip the Band-Aid off on this. Obviously, there is a kind of similarity there as far as accepting things based purely on an evidentiary position of things that make you feel better, or things for that have an emotional utility, for whether it be community or not. So there's kind of a parallel there.
Yeah.
And I'm curious
I
how you reconcile that. Huh?
And let me tell you,
Okay.
When I was in college or university, if you're outside the United States, I was involved in some college campus based Christian groups, and there were the weird kids, and they would show up, and we accepted them, and we could tell that they just longed for acceptance, and you just knew, looking, if you look back at their history, they probably had a real hard time socially throughout their whole life, and then they find us, right, this group here that will accept them, and they just cling on. They love it.
Yeah.
But they're weird, and eventually it wears on people, and we're all like, okay, dude, you gotta cut it out. Or even worse, they would graduate and keep coming. And so there are a couple people that after graduation, 6 months, a year later, were like, hey, it's time to move on. So I saw that in a night. And so one guy in particular that I knew from college.
A lot of people go to college for 8 years. Yeah.
Really,
they're called doctors.
Really weird guy.
Yeah.
And then I started doing these videos on Flat Earth. I'm like, oh, there's a good chance he's a flurf. So I went to his Facebook, and he's not. But remember that one letter, a conspiracy organization from a couple years ago?
Vaguely.
Q. The letter Q.
Yes.
He's deep into that, super deep into that. Like everything. I'm like, dude, just up and down everything. And yeah, so it's the same thing. Like, he found in that group some acceptance, because all these other people, and I think he wasn't quite as bad as Flat Earth for the weird socially outcasts, but the people watching. If you've not seen the debate that I had, is just over a week ago with the people watching. He's another example, and he's been emailing me constantly, and I can't repeat what he's said to me in email. But he's troubled. He's very troubled, and he found in Flat Earth, he found some acceptance.
Right.
Sort of. I think he's a bit out there for them even. So I don't know what he'll do, but anyway, it's so many of them. But yeah, people are talking Arwen. People like Awake Souls, Jason Laufenberg, right? Laufenberg, I get his last name wrong. He's not normal. Nathan Thompson, Austin Whitsitt. He didn't have a good time in high school, right? He talks about it sometimes, even like he didn't have a good experience in school, and we can look at him and say, yeah, we know why. So the list goes on of people like that.
So given that, I mean, I know that I recognize that there's a large percentage, I would say a disturbing large percentage of, I would say, emotional instability, mental instability. I don't want to run around and just say that all flat earthers are mentally ill. I don't think that it's all predicated on mental illness. I think a lot of it is predicated on... Did you say again?
It's a bit too broad.
Yeah, it's a bit too broad on that. But I think there is a disturbingly high percentage of that. I would say like 15% or 20%. That's really high, given your standard population models, where like less than 1% or maybe like 1% of the population, or like 1% of like 100,000, has a particular mental illness. In that particular, I would say that community is kind of open for it. It kind of collects individuals like that, or is predisposed to having people like that because they're not challenged on it. So it's allowed. So they're kind of like they're more out there. Thoughts and behaviors and feelings are allowed to kind of propagate because nobody challenges them, nobody rejects them for it. They're just kind of there because they have that. Am I wearing Smarty Girl glasses? No, I had to get new glasses. My old glasses were just junk. Yeah, I had this pair for like 20 years, for almost 20 years. I had to be done with them. So
you could get glasses like the Rev on TikTok has. You'll love him. I'm not kidding. You will like him. You should get him on here.
I can't wear those glasses. So, but when it comes down to it, and someone actually brought up, I didn't want to, no, I caught it. So, Jason T, member of the Godless Army, thanks so much, Jason T, says, I've noticed a parallel between internet religious apologists and flirts in the way they argue reversals of burden of proof, assertions without evidence, sea-lining, also non sequiturs, and a number of other ones. Typically, what I find is that those arguments all boil down. They're all predicated upon the false assumption, or the false assumption that we are special. So they view the world as a particular way. They view our relationship to it, and they come to the false conclusion that we are special. And from that, utilizing arguments from incredulity, arguments from ignorance, or appeals to emotion, they predicate their God belief upon these things. So this is where this goes.
Yeah.
Now, but I see the parallel between flat Earth, and not just flat Earth, anti-vax, 5G, all these are like this. These emotionally based positions. These positions they take because they emotionally validate them. And I look at the parallel to that, and that's what caught me, why I wanted so badly to have this conversation with you, because you understand that yourself because of the theistic position that you hold. So, mental illness aside, or emotional instability aside, or like emotional stunting or whatever. That being said, we have two positions here that are both held for emotional reasons. And I'm kind of curious, how do you reconcile that? How do you reconcile holding the position you have and then telling the other person that their emotional-based position is wrong? And because there's evidence for it. Yeah. But then, yeah.
Okay, so the big difference, this is the most obvious, is the flat Earth claim is a specific claim about physical reality.
Right.
Things that we can go measure right now, we can go test and verify ourselves. And in fact, they've been done for a long time. Religion in general, some outliers may have different things, but in general, religion is, here are some claims about the not physical world. So one is claims about the physical world, one is claims about the not physical world. So there's the big, I think, demarcation between them to begin with. But if you put those aside, then here's a faith position on the immortality of the soul. Here's a faith position based on the firmament existing. We can go test the firmament. We can't test the immortality of the soul. Here's a faith position on what might change afterlife for the immortal soul. Here's a faith-based position on people, NASA lying to everybody so that they can make money. You see the difference between those at least. But it
essentially
is,
that you got the one field is demonstrable, verifiable, falsifiable. We understand this implicitly. The other one is making assertions about things that we can't possibly know yet. That, like, if there's something outside of the universe that respect, or some aspect of the universe that we can't fathom, or maybe because we're humans and we're three-dimensionally, grounded, that we can't see beyond this particular realm. I get that, because, that which is essentially the area of metaphysics. So there's a metaphysical argument, and there's like the physics argument in that respect, because they're demonstrably incorrect because of the evidence there. But when you're arguing from a metaphysical standpoint, that can there should be more latitude there.
Yeah, and yes, and to caution, making laws and having rules based on things of a faith position, unless the people are there that want that, which you just can't get outside of a small group of people, then what are you going to do? You shouldn't be forcing things on them.
Right.
And at the same time, then the non-religious, non-spiritual thing of, well, there is morality in our society, and so the government is in the position of legislating morality to a certain point, right? They don't let you steal, they don't let you kill, they don't let you whatever, those are moral things, and religions make claims of morality. So there's this big overlap. If you draw a Venn diagram of things that religion says you should and should not do, and a Venn diagram of what government says you should and should not do, there's a huge overlap. So where's the line between what a theist or a Christian or an evangelical wants the government to do versus what the government should do that's fair for the general population? There's overlap, but certainly there is not a complete overlap.
And I agree there shouldn't be. I believe that there shouldn't be any influence of religion into, or religious ideologies into, our legislation. That our legislation should be based upon what we know to be true, that which comports with reality, that which is supported by the evidence, and that which is fair. Because when something is true about reality, it's fair to all people. It makes no, it makes no concessions to any particular group. That's the big point there. Is like, one group feels bad about this particular thing. Well, too freaking bad, because this thing applies to everyone. So you can feel bad about all you want, but we're not going to sit there and knock it down just because it makes you feel, because it offends your feelings. In that respect, it's not a violation of reality. It's not illogical. So that's why that's the system that I'm really, really after. So given that, this is intriguing. I had a kind of a basic. This is what I thought, but I didn't want to make assumptions regarding what you believe and what your position is. So you come at flat Earth because it's just a blatant violation of evidence. The evidence is there. It's just talking nonsense. It's literally reality denialism. So that's why you go after it. The other one, a little bit more latitude, because it's making claims about things that are unfalsifiable. We can't possibly know. We may know one day in the future, but we don't know now. And I get that. So, but knowing what we know, given to this point, like, we're not talking, back, the Latin Vulgate or the Septuagint or the friggin' Hebrew text, or, the 1,000 years in between then and now, or the 600 years in between the KJV and now. So, given what we know now and the advancements that we've made, which were unfathomable 100 years ago.
Yeah.
James Webb Telescope, stuff like that, and who knows what we're going to find this year and possibly next year. So given what we know now, and given what we understand about logical contradictions and how various attributes of a God, like, the omniscient and omnipotent paradox, and, there's these things that entail logical contradictions. Logical contradictions cannot exist, therefore this thing cannot exist. And you raised with the KJV, which I don't need to go into why, the KJV is problematic in and of itself, but you still hold the belief. So how do you derive God from everything you know? Because obviously not the biblical Christian understood God, like, what KJV, here's God, this is what it is. We know that's not right by what's entailed by this thing. So how do you derive it from the universe?
It's a faith. I have experiences, not evidence.
It's just a matter of, like, we can eliminate certain things about God, like, like this idea that God is, like, outside the universe. Okay, given what we know, the definition of the universe and what physics explains, like this, it was like, well, there's nothing outside the universe in that respect, outside of space-time. And the idea of things existing for no time, infinite regress of a non-existent, or the metaphysical, timeless, spaceless mind that is the ontological instantiator of all intelligibility, that kind of crap. So we get that we can eliminate certain aspects, certain versions of God, because definitely the God that people believe in today is not the God like 1900 or 2000 years ago. That Christian God is far different from this one today, just by virtue of our knowledge about reality. So knowing what you know, having been a bit more advanced than your run-of-the-mill garden variety, Christian, but especially a Protestant, how do you derive God from the universe? How do you mesh the universe as you know it with the concept?
Yeah, God is outside the universe. So I can't answer that in a mechanical way, right? It's not mechanical. It's not the right word, but
I would say mechanistic is a mechanistic relationship between the God, between the entity itself.
Yeah.
It has its own identity. It is what it is, and is not anything else. So there is a mechanistic relationship between it and what you would ostensibly say is creation.
Yeah. There's something about consciousness, and so that there's this idea that there's a relationship that happens somewhere in the consciousness without the two-way communication. I don't see that, right? And the people that claim that they receive words,
even with our understanding of neurophysiology today,
I don't understand neurophysiology, so maybe
the
if I knew more about that, I would change.
Well, the breakdowns of things like geographic bias and NDEs, stuff like that mind-body dualism is a thing that we've pretty much eliminated. That our understanding of neuroplasticity pretty much eliminates a contention because we understand why how the brain functions. We understand a lot of it. There's still a lot of we don't get about the brain, but that's because the brain, in and of itself, is a self-wiring organic computer that, wires itself according to external stimuli and internal stimuli. You can actually think a particular thing, and your brain can wire itself to those thoughts. So we get this, which makes it easy to kind of get a base plate. Like, these are what the areas of the brain do. This one does here. This one does this. But how the brain wires itself is unique to each human being, which makes it very difficult to predict certain things and kind of explain a whole lot of. So there's a lot we don't know, but a lot we do know. But we do know neuroplasticity is a thing, and that damaging the brain has in specific ways can have fundamental effects on the personality and concepts like this. That we've pretty much eliminated the contention of mind-body dualism. I since lost. I do not believe that the evidence says that is not a possibility, given that we can affect the brain and affect this in a predictive manner, and affect your presentation in a manner. Like, if I want you to suddenly do this, I can tweak your brain and then make you do that.
That's
things
a
like
good
that.
Point. So the guy I debated this last week was a concave earther, and I didn't know this. Yeah.
Sorry.
When flat Earth isn't crazy enough. So this guy, and I didn't know this, the founder of the concave Earth stuff is Cyrus Teed, who was a Florida man.
Of course.
In the late 1800s. Apparently he got electrocuted. Like, he had some brain electrocution thing and while he was out or something like that, he had a vision from God that we live on the inside of a cell. He calls it cellular theory. So yeah, you're right. I get that thing. Stimuli can do things to the brain that are weird.
Oh, I had a friend many years ago, back in my kind of misspent youth. LSD was my DOC, and loved it a lot. And experiment sometimes took too much, like this. But I had a friend who had a particularly funky experience, a pretty funky reaction when he, with several hits of liquid, and was zoning out on his chair. And one of our friends, and it's real rule of thumb, when someone is frying eggs like that, don't mess with them. Don't screw with them, because the way we internalize stimuli when you're on lysergic acid is not the same as when you're sober. So anyway, my friend jumped up, my friend Colin jumped up and slapped him out of nowhere, dead quiet. They're all just kind of zoning. And my friend Colin jumps up and slaps the dude in the head and screams at him, "Tag, you're it," and then runs off nowhere. Just spur of the moment. The kid sat there, and we're all like, "What the hell just happened?" By him asking him. By him saying, "You're it," in this deeply profound way in his face, this kid went into an existential crisis the likes I have never seen.
Really?
Freaked out, ran home, Okay, and then came back a born again Christian. Because he said that for some reason he dove into that question and wound up having a conversation with God. Now he was on, I think, like 10 liquid. I'm not going to take what he says. I'm going to take what he says with a grain of salt. But he believes it happened. Came back, straight edge, doesn't do anything now. Quit cigarettes, quit everything, started going to church again.
Wow.
And that's pretty much it. I haven't talked to him in years. So I have not caught up with him in that respect. I don't know if he's like, backslid in that respect. But, obviously they can have these effects. I don't know, maybe he's joining the concave Earth call. I have no idea. So, but yeah, I get that. Given what we know as far as like neurology goes, like stuff like the Karen helmet, the God helmet, stuff like that, how we can literally induce religious euphoria and religious experiences and simulate NDEs utilizing magnetic, stimulation of the temporal lobe, which is arguably what happens when someone is dying. Is when oxygen deprivation cells begin to die and the brain begins fighting for survival, and but then we see geographic bias in near-death experiences. Mm-hmm. They believe what they were raised, that they hallucinate what they were raised to see. That's why you don't have people like if they have a near-death experience in Minnesota, they don't see Krishna, and you don't have people in Muslims who have NDEs seeing Christ in that respect. So. Given what we know, is like the reconciliation is difficult. So
I'm not a fan of near-death experiences. I had a friend who was big into it, and his dad had one, and he was totally convinced. And he'd come and tell me about, I read this book, I read the story, and he'd tell me about it. I'm like, oh, okay. That was about it. Because he was he was a 9/11 truther.
Oh,
this guy. But we would laugh at flat earthers. Like, dude, you're the same thing. You don't get that. Unfortunately, he's gone now. He died a couple years ago.
Oh, dang, that's
and
so that went dark. It's like...
So here's he was super convinced because his dad had an NDE. And his mom and dad were divorced and they were doing well, and then he moved, he went to a different job. I worked with him, and then both his mom and dad died within a kind of a short amount of time, and then he did. Like, he had been taking care of them. He had left the job, and he had enough money to do what he wanted, at least to a certain extent. And so he spent a lot of time taking care of his mom in her last days. And then he went after that. Like, anyway, the NDE stuff, I always, every story, like, yeah, they're biased. I remember hearing people say, well, I saw Jesus and I looked at his palms and there were holes in his palms from the nails. I'm like, BS. Because that wouldn't work, right? They'd have to be here.
They'd have to be in his wrist,
right?
Yeah.
And so that showed the person's bias that they didn't.
I met Adam and Eve. They had belly buttons.
What's that?
I said I met Adam and Eve, and they had belly buttons. Really? They did. That's one of my favorite jokes. Is the pictures of Adam and Eve, and they all have belly buttons. Oh. It's like, why? You gotta love, like, Renaissance
Adam
art.
Would have like stitches here, right?
Yeah, and he'd have like a scar.
Yeah,
like human tissue. But no, God can magic away the scar. But is God gonna be like, oh wait, shit, I gotta give these guys belly buttons? So it's kind of after the fact. All humans have belly buttons, so when God created them, he must have created them with belly buttons. It's like, nah, it doesn't really work that way.
I don't know. We should look at the pictures. There's pictures of them, right? I've seen them. Definitely.
Of Adam and Eve?
Yeah, definitely seen pictures of them.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
In the illustrated children's Bible, there's pictures. Well, they're cartoons.
Dude. Oh, you brought up the illustrated children's Bible. You just reminded me, because I went to the Ark in Kentucky. So I went to the Ark experience.
My friend did too.
I can't believe you haven't gone to it yet. It is such an abomination of science. They actually have say so it's a walkthrough experience. You get also. I will say this: it's a level of construction that is on par with like Disneyland. I will give them that.
It's big.
It's enormous, and there is so much in it. It's a very immersive experience, but it is chock full of such bad science. They even have an aliens section in there for explaining why certain things occurred, like the building of the pyramids, and how they fit that in with the 6,000 year geological age of the Earth. It's friggin' insane. But they have a section there which really got me, which I found was interesting, on the children's narrative of the Ark. Okay, so
how to teach it to them?
Well, actually, no. It was addressing the version of the Ark story, the version of the Noachian flood like this, the version of this that is presented in children's books. They presented that children in children's books are taught a corrupted version of Noah's Ark, of the story, so that when they get older, they can look back and say, that is ridiculous. And then they reject it. So the existence of the Noachian story in children's books as presented to children is a the kind of conspiracy.
The non-biblical.
They take a lot of the darker stuff out of it, is what it is. Like, so when I open up a children's, like the story of Noah, and I open up and see all these cute happy animals and the 2x2 and all this stuff. Well, because they leave a lot of the darker stuff out and a lot of the implications out of that story, because they just tell the kind of brass tacks of it.
Yeah.
Those people at the Ark Encounter, those individuals believe that the reason that this is done is not to kind of shield young children from the darker implications of the Bible. It's done so that when they grow up, they have a false understanding of the Noah saga, and therefore are more readily able to reject it because they were taught it incorrectly at a young age. So the idea of telling the Noah's Ark story in youth, in children's stories, is just this big conspiracy to undermine the truth of the Bible. And they have an entire section inside the Ark experience dedicated to explaining this conspiracy.
I guess that is weird.
Oh, it's wild.
Yeah. So I'm good friends with Danny Faulkner, who works with Ken Ham.
Okay.
I don't like Ken Ham. I am not a fan of Ken Ham. But Danny and I like Danny. We don't agree on young Earth creationism. And we just don't talk about it.
Zircon! It's fundamental. But nonetheless, I digress. Go ahead.
Zircon.
Zircon crystals, lead.
Oh.
See how lead attracts out. When zircon crystals form, they attract uranium, but they reject lead. So any lead that you find in the zircon crystal had to have been there from the decay of the uranium that was attracted into the zircon crystal. So we independently verified this from zircon crystals that were samples that were taken during the Apollo missions. That's how we independently verify the age of the Earth, the age of the Moon. So, yeah.
It was put there like that.
The devil did it to confuse us.
Don't take that to think I agree with that position.
I've got to get the devil burying fossils shirt. That's one shirt I don't have. I need to get that. This will mess with him.
Oh, I know that. But Danny, there are archaeologists. Who is it that look for dinosaurs? Those people.
Paleontologists?
There are paleontologists hired and employed and that work for, maybe one or two, that work for the same organization. Mm-hmm. So they don't have a disagreement that dinosaurs existed. At least that they're not wrong about, that they existed. How long ago they existed, that's a different story. But that's why this new thing of people just blanket dismissing dinosaurs' existence is insane. and it takes. See, I never heard it before this flat Earth crap. So I don't know how. Maybe it's new. Maybe it's not. But anyway, so yeah, there's.
It's kind of like it's like what's weird is that they I've heard a lot of biblical apologists attempt to like explain like the behemoth that was described in the Bible is essentially what it was they say that well that's a dinosaur. They're describing a brontosaurus or a brachiosaurus like that. Was like no, because well one. Brachiosaurus or Brontosaurus was not the only fucking dinosaur that lived during that time. So if they were describing one dinosaur, they'd likely describe another dinosaur that lived at the same time. So there would be multiple different dinosaurs of different heights that did different things. Yeah. So I think of one of the dinosaurs that lived at the same time as the Brachiosaurus was the Ankylosaurus, and they shared the same territory. So if they both lived at the same time, why is there no description of an Ankylosaurus and the Brachiosaurus both in the Bible at the same time? So why are they only describing one dinosaur? When in actuality, I'm pretty certain that the description of the behemoth was actually just they were describing an auroch. So a primitive auroch, which I'm thinking that's what it was I've heard some people have speculated, but I think the evidence indicates by the description that it was some beast of burden, probably relative of the auroch, something that's probably now extinct. But yeah, just a big beast of burden. So
yeah, it doesn't make sense that they wouldn't describe more of them. And were they not on the ark? Were they on the ark? How many brachiosauruses were there? 2 or 7? Were they clean or unclean?
So yeah, this was the big thing that I always got really curious when I found out that you were a theist. I was like, oh, this is very interesting because it falls kind of in line with Francis Collins, I respect. And Francis Collins was Christopher Hitchens' favorite debater. He loved Francis Collins because Francis Collins was intellectually honest. So it's weird, Christian, as antagonistic as Hitchens was towards faith. He meets Francis Collins like, I really like that guy. I like this dude because he valued intellectual honesty above all things. Like, can you at least be honest with yourself so you're honest with other people? And they are. So and he is. So I respect that. And I get where it is and how it kind of fulfills that kind of personal thing for you, that you have that psychological utility or that emotional utility and the community that comes with, like you said, the friends you are with your pastor and that your kids are friends with their kids, the social structure there, it's very positive, and that's all a good thing. Support structures, we're social animals by virtue of our evolution.
We all need it.
We need that community.
All need
we
community.
do.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're alone all the time like I am, then you become a really cantankerous asshole. So have your support structures in place. Although I do have friends here, but but nonetheless, it's really I get that, I totally agree with it. And where you find that community and those support structures, because when we fall on hard times, we need those people to lean on. That there's truth to it takes a village in that respect. So, and I agree with it totally. And you don't kind of jump that gap where you need to shove it down other people's throats. Because you got to win souls for God. It's like you've got some sort of like metaphysical quota that you have to maintain so you can get past the pearly gates. So, I've never understood that. So,
I think if you ask people, they don't think that, but they certainly act like that. But let me say that, like, if you know Penn from Penn and Teller, he's an outspoken atheist, and because of that, a lot of Christians had reached out to him and tried to.
Trying to save his soul. I love you. I love your magic, so I have to save you.
and Penn's reaction to that was great. He said, "Well, these people think I need it. They're doing it not for selfishness, but because they care about me," and he respected that. So I think that when people, the right motivation for people to proselytize would be to help other people, right? Because if you think about it, if a person is convinced that this needs to happen in order for somebody else to have some good experience or have eternal life or whatever, well, then to not tell people is a little disrespectful, isn't it? I don't know. What do you think?
I always tell them, because I get a lot of that. I get a bunch of that on my channel and my comment section as well. I always tell them, save your prayers and use that energy to go out and do something positive in your community. Yeah. To go out and do something effective. Like, do something that you're going to have a demonstrable effect for. Don't waste them on me. It's like, because it's not it's not going to do anything. So go out there and use that energy to do something. Even if it's with your church, go out and do community activism. Yeah. Go out there, build a house. Like my mother. And this is a big point of contention between my mother and I. My mother is a devout believer. I am not. And one of the reasons why we haven't spoken in I'd say probably coming up on like 3 years, is because we had a major disagreement and she kind of hung up on me. So, which she never does, which was crazy to me. But yeah, we had that. But my mother goes out there and does something. I don't get messages from mom, please repent and blah like this. I don't get that crap. What I do see my mom doing constantly is going out there with Habitat for Humanity and busting her ass to provide housing, affordable housing to individuals, to families who need it. And so that's what she does with her time and her energy. She's not going to sit there and be like, thoughts and prayers. No, my mother is a woman of action. And she goes out there and she kicks her ass to go ahead and do that, try to put something forward in the world. That's what her faith drives her to do, is to be a positive force. And I totally appreciate that. Like that, I just wish, she didn't get so mad at me when I called her out on her logical fallacies.
Doesn't work on mom. What do you think?
I know, it was so bad. Well, here's what's wild.
You can't do that on mom.
My mother is one of the smartest women. It's probably the smartest woman I know. Gets smarter. The older I get, the smarter my mother gets. My mother is logical. She is rational. She is reasonable. My mother was literally, if she didn't have kids, she was actually planning to become a doctor. But when she had me, her plans kind of changed and she went into mathematics and accounting. My mother is a woman of logic, of reason. She understands these things. It was like medicine or accounting. It was like literally, these are these deep fields, and this was back in the friggin' 80s. She was looking at it like STEM, so it was like, holy crap! My mom was going into it, and then all of a sudden, I was in a conversation with her a few years ago, and she had gotten kind of offended by something that I had said, because she took something I said in some of my content. She took it kind of personally, even though it wasn't directed at her.
Oh, did she watch your videos at the time?
I'm pretty. She said I had said something, and I think I said it in the video. But she was like, I took kind of offense to this, and I was like, well, I wasn't targeting you. I wasn't like you, my mother, like this. It wasn't directed at you.
I can see how she would get that though.
Yeah, I expected her why are you taking this personally? It wasn't like I was calling you out. Like you suck. I didn't say that. But she's like, yeah, but you imply that there's like, well, I'm just showing my audience the logical connection. There's like that this entails this, and that that's why this is a fallacious. That's why this is a logical fallacy. And she got so mad at me, and I was like, and I literally remember the last thing I said was, I could never imagine that you would ever be so illogical. Ooh. Because she countered my claim of fallacious reasoning with a straw man, and she straw manned me, and I was like, it was almost like hearing your sober friend suddenly say, "Oh yeah, by the way, did you know lizard people, man?" You're like, excuse me? And so it blew my mind. And I said, I never imagined that you could be so illogical. And she hung up on me. And that was the last we'd spoken. It's the last we'd spoken for a while. And you have to understand.
Is it better yet? You got to make that better.
You got to understand. My mother is a very stubborn woman. She, I don't say that, I don't want to say that heritage. I think my mother's is German, full-blood German. My mother's a very stubborn woman. And I spent my life being reminded, kind of passive-aggressively, how wrong I am at times, and how I wasn't living up to my potential. Like, I had all this intelligence, but I was not doing anything with it. And reminded, I spent a lifetime doing that. All my formative years, being reminded of how wrong I was. And she was right. I was wrong many, many times, But this time I'm right. This time, this one is mine. And she's got to be able to deal with that. So legit, I don't know if my mother will watch this, but the ball's really in her court.
It's your mom.
I got one, and I spent a lifetime.
Pride down, jail. Put the pride down. It's your mom.
So no, I have no doubt my mother's going to outlive me in that respect.
Send the check, jail's mom.
Oh yeah. Oh, Aaron Reed says jail comes from stubborn people. No, I'm shocked. So that was okay. So I will freely admit that my stubbornness and sometimes my aggression. This is why I was really careful. I didn't want to come at this aggressively with MCToon, because you don't go out there causing you don't go out there causing antisocial rifts amongst people. You expose irrationality. You expose anti-realism, or anti-reality thinking, or anti-science. You expose it because these things are dangerous. When you deny evidence, you deny science. When you deny these things, you deny the things that help to maintain. Huh?
It clicks a bunch of things in your brain that will flow the wrong direction.
Exactly. And I kind of go one step further, because I feel that once the door is opened to irrational thinking, once you open that door, it can lead to other doors. And I see that a lot of flat earthers, anti-vaxxers, flat earthers who couch their stuff in the Bible, anti-vaxxers who couch their stuff in the Bible, like the apocalyptic tellings, lizard people and stuff like that, cabals, new world orders. A lot of them can trace their stuff back to cherry-picked verses in like Revelation or Isaiah or David or something, something in there. They say, "Oh, this harkens to this," and well, it's all friggin' the problem of hermeneutics. Like they're interpreting. You can say they're contextually interpreting them wrong, but that's where it goes. That's where that irrationality that's where that kernel begins. The door is opened that things exist beyond reality.
Yeah.
And then people begin to walk through the door, and you believe one irrational thing. You can justify another if it's close enough. And that just adds to it, and adds to it, and adds to it. For example, I see they believe in God. They believe the Bible is true and inerrant. They read the book of Isaiah. They believe the earth is flat. So, and I see where you come in. You jump in there, earth is not flat.
Yeah.
Here's the evidence. But I jump in there and go, what? You can't demonstrate your God exists. You can't justify the fact that you claim the Bible is true. So I think that's just
the inerrant. It's a good thing. The inerrancy claim. And lately with this concaver. This really kind of got a little fleshed out for me that lots of people claim the Bible is inerrant, and all of those people, every one of them without exception, have a view of the Bible that contradicts something that everybody else has, right? Even if they're the same denomination, if they sit next to each other in church every single week, there will be one point at least of the Bible that they both say is inerrant that they both disagree with each other on. How can it be? Well, all right, let's say we can logically say, okay, maybe it is inerrant. You can put that hat on, right? But everybody has to interpret it. The interpretation is obviously in error in all but one person, or maybe everybody, because everybody disagrees at least at some point. Yeah. Only one person can have the inerrant interpretation of it, and most likely that person doesn't exist.
Yeah, the problem of I've long stated that the problem of hermeneutics demonstrates that there is no omniscient, that an omniscient God does not exist. Because an omniscient God would recognize that the problem of hermeneutics would be one of the biggest hurdles in biblical interpretation, and because there is no solution to the problem of hermeneutics, because it's all emotion-based, it's all faith-based, and they justify it based upon their intuitions or whatever.
But does the audience know hermeneutics?
So hermeneutics is essentially, to kind of nutshell that, is how we interpret the Bible, is what methodologies we use to interpret the Bible, your hermeneutical process, in which I look at, people will claim that, I look at various stories and then I cross-reference them with previous stuff in the Bible, or I look at things and then I cross-reference them with what we know about reality. So there's a wide variety, but the problem of hermeneutics is that grand interpretations of the Bible are wholly subjective. And that's why it runs the spectrum of complete and total literalism. The Bible happened as is 100% fact, all the way to the Bible is pure and total, like, metaphorical anecdote.
Yeah.
So there are individuals or absolute fiction. So it's absolute fact or absolute fiction, and then everywhere in between. I have seen people utilize hermeneutics so that they can literally go in and look at different verses within the same damn chapter and have wholly different contextual interpretations of what those mean. There are cats who will literally go through Leviticus, and each individual law has its own contextual application, despite the fact all being written around the same time,
Yeah.
kind of plagiarized from Hammurabi, and then, but they'll say, no, that's not what God meant with this one. That's not what God meant by mixed fabrics. That's not what God meant by mixing your
God meant
crops.
something.
It's something else.
How do you
And
know
like,
what God meant?
it's like, how do you know these things? And they cannot justify them because they are born purely out of intuition and how what they want to be true about God. Because like, I really would like this because I like mixed fabrics and I like clothes that are, and because everything is mixed fabrics, then God couldn't have possibly meant that mixed fabrics were an abomination. He couldn't have possibly meant that because God would know
that only was for a specific thing.
Right. So,
Clive
Wells could see
my friend that whose dad had the NDE. He was very serious about Leviticus 19:27 that you should not get a tattoo. But he didn't have any qualms about cutting his hair short.
Really?
Which is in the next verse. Right? It's 4 things. Don't get a tattoo, don't mark your bodies, don't shave the side of your beard, and don't trim the side of your hair. 4 things. All one right after the other. Well, which ones are you supposed to do and which ones are you not supposed to do? He picked and chose what felt good for him. Like, that doesn't seem very consistent. But that was to wrap it up. That's a list of 4 things that ends with as a way of remembering the dead. So typically the hermeneutics is, at least the one I agree with, the subjective version of it, is that's a list of 4 things not to do as a way of remembering the dead. So don't get a tattoo of your dead grandma.
Aaron Reed says, mixing polyester and cotton led to leisure suits. Hence that biblical prohibition, because God knew it would lead to leisure suits. Oh, and I got Clive Wells, one of my favorite dudes out there. Clive Wells is amazing and is an excellent resource for knowledge, who is still trying to hold me to the position that I believe in ghosts, which I do not. I swear, I'm going to regret trying to find a justification for that phenomena, for why people interpret the phenomena as ghosts. I'm going to regret trying to explain that because I did not articulate that well. I was basically trying to say that what people interpret as ghosts is likely misinterpretation or misidentification of natural phenomena. That's all I was trying to say. And so, I totally bollocksed it, so.
If I could just apply hermeneutics to what you just said, you completely believe in ghosts. No! You think everybody should, and you're going to be going to Times Square with a sandwich board to declare to everybody that they need to believe in ghosts. You can't disagree with that.
I'm stuck. Turtle Move says, Jail doesn't cut his beard. He's a theist! Well, I did once. I had to. Because I woke up one morning and I had a spider in my beard. It had gotten so big. So I live really rural. So,
like a nest? Like it had
No, just one spider. So I live really, really rural. Like I'm way out here. I'm way out here.
Spider gone. No, you're not like.
So this is what happened. So I live really, really rural out here in like Depot. I'm literally like kind of like 15 minutes from the Kansas border in respect. So there's not a lot out here. We have a real big problem with wolf spiders and brown recluses. I've got them all over the place. They're everywhere. And during the cold, when it gets cold, obviously it's not really a problem. But when it warms up, I find them in my office. I find them in the bathroom, like that. Wolf spiders come in. I got to kick them out and get them outside. And then, of course, brown recluses, I got to take care of me because I have a little dog, so I can't risk that. So I woke up one morning and was like, oh, and my beard was like this long. So my beard, I'd let my beard grow long. You remember, you saw it because I used to dye it colors and shit. So my beard grew long, and I woke up one morning and I felt something. It was like, what is that itch? And I felt something, and then I went to itch my chin, and I felt something touch my finger. Oh. And I was like, what the? And I kind of got in there and just like in a panic, and then looked, and I had spider parts in my hand, and I did not know if it was a brown recluse or if it was a wolf spider that had crawled into my beard while I was asleep. So and I was like, I need to cut my beard. So I shaved it, so I cut it down, and now I'm just growing it out naturally again. But yeah, there was one time. But it wasn't that big, but I felt it. It crawled up in there and was like tickling my chin, and I was like, what the hell is that? Oh, there's a spider in my beard.
They weren't
Charlie
real
Wells.
spider parts. They were just ghost spider parts.
Charlie. Now my beard is haunted. It's haunted by. I occasionally get itches from the phantom spider in my beard. Charlie Welch says it was Otangula, or Otangula. Oh, Otangelo. What are we gonna do with Otangelo?
You've how many times have you debated Otangelo?
I debated Otangelo once.
Okay.
And it was intriguing. So not the debate itself. The debate was a fucking shit show. But I will give Otangelo this because Otangelo runs with Darth Dawkins, and when Otangelo agreed to debate me over on Johnny Osha over on the Plot Hole. So
I watched that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna debate, and Darth Dawkins heard that Otangelo was going to debate me, and he was demanding that Otangelo not do that because I am one of the infamous Darth Dawkins defamers and slanderers, and so how is he going to debate this person that dared slander me? And I'll give Otangelo this. He had the integrity to say, no, I gave my word that I was going to do this. I'm not going to break my word just because you demand me to. And then Darth, you're no longer my friend. And then it was wild. So
did you cause the breakup of the power couple?
So it was a brief breakup because very soon after Otangelo made his way back into his good graces somehow. But it was interesting to hear him have that kind of integrity. He gave his word he was going to debate. He said, I will show up. The man showed up. He failed spectacularly, but at least he showed up. I'll give him that. But he will never debate me again. And this is because of a conversation that he and I had in Discord one night. And it's one of those moments, I wasn't recording. I was literally just like listening to another conversation going on. And so I was sitting there working, I was writing, and I was just listening, and all of a sudden, Otangelo pops in. Because he does that on occasion. He's like, I'm going to go look for an atheist. So he pops in there and says, hey, and we start having this conversation. It questions me on some things about, like evolution. And I'm like, and eventually gets to the point where the conversation is pretty civil. We're just going kind of like flop, like just flinging softballs back and forth. And then all of a sudden the conversation took a bit of a turn because Otangelo said something, and I remember the conversation went that I was curious why Otangelo always seeks out atheists to debate and attacks them on like evolution, abiogenesis, and these various things, but I've never seen him debate another Christian. And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, the vast majority of Christians, like roughly like coming up on like 80%, by like by the latest Pew research, do not believe in young Earth creationism. They do not believe in like
I didn't know it's that much.
Yeah, it's like literally the whole young Earth creationism, or like like the 6,000 year Earth or God creation like that. That evolution is false. That number is very slowly shrinking as more and more people begin to really understand. Oh, they get what evolution is, and they're beginning to understand that a lot of theist preachers out there are misrepresenting evolution when they say it's false. So, and it's easy to debunk a lie. When you lie about evolution, then you debunk the lie. That's easy because, you didn't even represent it correctly. So, people are figuring this out. So I said, Otangelo, why don't you ever go up against a fellow Christian who believes in evolution? Why don't you ever take them to task? They're a Christian. Your Bible tells you to rebuke those other Christians that spout false things. But you never do that. You only come after atheists. Why is that? And he said, because they're Christians, they already get the message. It doesn't matter that they believe in evolution or abiogenesis and how these are not mutually exclusive concepts with the concept of God. So he doesn't need to. They're already saved and good to go. Oh. That's why I go after atheists, because he believes that atheists base our disbelief in God on evolution, which I find to be
I hate that.
Right. So I pointed this out to him and said, you realize that this makes you entirely a bad faith interlocutor because you accept it from your core group, from the group that you're in, and you have no qualms with it. You don't even call them out on it, yet you deliberately attack us for that thing that you accept from them. You understand that this totally makes you bad faith. And he was quiet for a minute, which was shocking. I thought he'd left. And so we're all like, Otangelo? And then he was like, no, you can't like that. And he started trying to weasel his way out of it. And then I put his feet to the fire because he knew I was right. And then he said, well, I'm never going to debate you ever again. And that was the last I've spoken with him. So it was easily that. So go ahead.
It's just really interesting that I mean I think it's what really gets me though, and as I mentioned, is the belief that from him and others like him, I think, right, that atheists disagree with evolution because of an atheist position. When there's lots of Christians that have the same position, and it's not coming from right. I actually I get that from flat earthers too, because a lot of them accuse all Christians that don't believe in flat Earth of not being real Christians. In fact, that was Lady Blunt back in the early 1900s. That was her position. You are not a Christian if you don't believe in flat Earth, she said.
No true Scotsman.
Well, I don't think it's quite that. To her, it was a necessary part of the faith. So I don't know if no true Scotsman is really the right term for it. I mean, it still is ridiculous.
No true Christian. It's like no true Christian believes in a round Earth. So you're only a true Christian. Yeah.
There you go. Whatever. I don't know. Call it what you want. I don't know. Nitpick fallacies. So that was telling. It's interesting that because, and this is the thing, because Otangelo, I think, argues for a young Earth from a pre-selected conclusion.
Right.
And he's accusing you of arguing from a pre-selected conclusion. That's projection.
And not to mention, he wrote a book, right?
No.
Yeah, it's available on Amazon.
I don't follow Otangelo. he was on. I had him on the Toon Show back before Cliff passed away, and my goodness, he's boring.
Definitely his mode of talking is not. Yeah, it's not great. That's why I have to do this because people love this. So I have to go to 1 second.
Are there not many songs about Otangelo? Is it 'cause nobody cares?
With the earbuds, it was right there. It was so personal. My goodness. Who did that? Whose voice is that?
I can't remember. Someone did. I can't remember specific. I think was it Commander Darklight. I think it was Commander Darklight who assembled that. And I just kind of put it together with because he had the Kermit. I put the Otangelo head on, put the tears on there. So, I love it, and I have dined out on that video so much. I love it so much. That was one of the best things in my repertoire. But yes, Otangelo. This is what's wild. So if you go to Amazon, Otangelo Grasso, and let me see here real quick. So he wrote a book, and I have to do this. And where's Amazon at? There we go. Boom. So he wrote a book. On the origin of life and virus world by means of an intelligent designer, the factory maker, Paley's watchmaker argument 2.0.
A pithy title.
And you can buy this bad boy for $30.
Wow. That's kind of steep.
That is really steep.
For
paperback $30, Kindle for only $9.90. So yeah, that's Otangelo Grasso's book. The author, and what was it? I think one of the best things there's his kind of bio: Swiss Italian born, 66, raised in Zurich, blah blah blah. So there's the ratings. Let's see.
How many of these 1 stars did you write?
Oh, I actually haven't reviewed it yet. I didn't do a review because I didn't rate it very deep. So it's funny because a lot of these fives. I think I know some of the names, but then The author, and I regrettably misuse that term loosely, does not apparently even possess any degree in any biological field. The author seems to attempt to offer an answer to the question of how the biological ingredients of non-life, e.g. nucleotides, from a functional state of irreducible complexity somehow come together to start life from non-life through the cosmic divine guided hand of an intelligent designer, i.e. presumably God. However, the book is unhelpful in exploring abiogenesis, and the author's final conclusions for the origin of life are just egregiously laughable. So it's not good, and from what I understand from a couple people who have looked at it, is that it's essentially he's copy and pasted, cherry-picked sections out of other people's DOIs, and put them in here, and then kind of misrepresented them in order to push his particular narrative. Is ostensibly what he does. You know, no different than Matt Powell or Kent Hovind, who will cherry pick. Like every time I do a video on and they bring up a quote on somebody, I have to dive into it because it's usually taken out of context or being misrepresented in some way.
Does it sometimes or all the time contradict their position?
I would say 90% of the time it contradicts their position.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, Matt Powell did the exact same thing. He was quoting Sir Arthur Keith, who's a turn-of-the-century anatomist and anthropologist and a proponent of scientific racism, which is bad. But he was like, Arthur Kent was like, yeah, this is validation that Hitler was an atheist, blah, blah, blah. He took one line from Arthur Kent from Essays on Human Evolution. And the problem is that it comes from a large quote, and the quote after like everything after what Matt Powell used is literally Keith saying, and Hitler failed because he didn't understand what evolution was. He misapplied that misunderstanding, and it resulted in the disastrous conclusions of the war because he did not do it like that. It was like, so wait, yeah, the dude was a scientific racist, which is pseudoscience that's long since been discarded. But he was explaining why Hitler got it wrong. And why, but no, because he was like, Hitler was an evolutionist. He was like this, but the problem is he misapplied the science because he didn't understand it and blah, 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 and because it was a corrupted version of Darwin's ideology. So yeah, I just run into it all the time. It's been eye-opening.
Matt Powell and Kent Hovind are quite horrible people.
Yes.
I don't get the impression that Otangelo's a horrible person.
I've never heard him espouse like really gruesomely hateful rhetoric like Powell and Hovind have.
Okay. Right. Well, at least I agree. I've interacted with Otangelo a little bit, and he was at least decent enough like that. So, but
at least tries to maintain a level of civility. I will give him that. Like, he doesn't freak out. I mean, he'll freak out if he thinks he's being interrupted constantly. But the reason people interrupt him so much is because he tends to go on these long-winded copy pastas that you're just like, because you know it's BS, but you got to let him finish like his 3 paragraphs before. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But I've always go ahead.
No.
Oh wait. But I've always found him to be at least like to a degree civil. Like he tries to maintain civility, unlike people like Darth Dawkins or Jay Robin or any of the sycophants that run around there, or anybody in like the new IFB. That's the Independent Fundamentalist Baptist Church, like Stephen Anderson, Bruce Mejia, motherfuckers like that, Greg Locke, shit like that. So who just like openly vile rhetoric in that respect, and constantly violate the Johnson Amendment, like it even fucking matters anymore.
Well, let me tell you this. Kent Hovind, rotten guy, but he has that Dinosaur Land, right, that he made in Pensacola. Not the new one, the old one that got him sent to prison for tax evasion. Last year, we were vacationing in Pensacola, and on a kind of a slightly rainy, like little bit of sleet going on day, not sleet, but misty. Like it wasn't nice to go outside. Like, hey, what if we went over to Dinosaur Land? So we did. Yes. So I've told this on my channel, so some of these people have heard it. But so we go there, and the door is shut, right? The gate is shut, and we were looking through, like, oh, that's interesting. Well, there's these offices over next to it, and then it used to be a garage or something. And there's like, we look inside, and there's like this kind of a storeroom, and then we go around front, and we had knocked on the door, nobody answered. We went around to the front, and And we just kind of looked in and we saw somebody looking out, but it was a house. It was all attached. All the buildings were attached, but it was a house. And we're like, oh no, that's not them. So let's not knock on that door. Well, we start walking away and a lady pops her head out. She's like, hey, can I help you? And we're like, oh, we were just, looking for Dino Land and whatever, and just curious about stuff. She's like, oh, well, come on in. I'll get you to the offices. Oh no, that's okay. She's like, I insist. So we go in. She was in the middle of a piano lesson. She was giving a piano lesson, and we walked past the kids sitting at the piano, and in the other room is a couple other kids that are maybe the next ones to have piano lessons. She brings us back through to the office and hands us off, and there's a couple people working in the office there.
I'm getting Terminus vibes from this.
Tell
Walking Dead.
It was all tell them the stuff, and they're like, oh, Eric's not here right now. Eric? I don't know. No, Eric Hovind. Like, oh, okay. That must be Ken's son. I didn't know. So we're like, oh, whatever. And they're saying this is their offices for whatever ministry it is. And then Eric drives up. And so he comes in and they introduce it. So I talk to Eric, and I'm not hiding anything. I'm like, well, not a fan of Kent, but your dad, but I have some videos on this channel and flat earth stuff. And he's like, oh yeah, those flat earthers. Right. He's not so that lady was Eric's mom. She lives in that house, which is attached to the offices, and there's doorways between, and he brings me through a tour of Dino Land. So I had a personalized tour of Dino Land from Eric, who as a kid, this was his dad's thing. Like he was elementary school, middle school. Like that was when, about maybe high school, I don't know, when his dad was doing this. And he's like, yeah, people were here all the time. There's this slide here. There's kids here. There's this stuff. He showed me this, these two satellite dishes that were way across the air, probably 100 yards apart. And you stand in this one spot and you talk, and then on the other side, they can hear you. It's really cool. You can just whisper and hear them. Then he's like, here, he brought me to his studio. So if you've ever seen his videos, I've been in that studio.
Nice.
And we had a nice talk, and I'm like, well, maybe we can do some, I'll come on your show and we'll talk about flat earth, and you come on in mine and we'll talk about flat earth and whatever. And, and I didn't pull any punches like I am a young earth creation. No, I didn't tell him that. Right. I was clear on that. But it was a good interaction, and he gave us a tour, and it was very friendly. And and I got the impression, I won't want to say too much, but I got the impression that he wasn't in favor of kind of his dad's tactics. So.
Interesting, because this is the dude who had a screaming match with Aaron Ra outside of the Ark Encounter.
Eric?
First opened. Yeah, Eric Hovind is like, it was throw with threw down with Aaron Ra. I know Aaron Ra it can be divisive, and will be up there, but there's video of the two of them like going back and forth in front of the Ark Encounter. That was some epic shit. But it's interesting. Kind of behind the scenes tour with Eric Hovind.
It was a great experience. My kids and my wife, they had a good a good experience, and my kids like puppies, and so he had a dog, and the dog's running around outside and everything. So anyway.
From my perspective, because I've never been down there, because I won't. I paid money to the Ark Encounter because I saw this, I was like, okay, let me see what they've got. I'm willing to justify the price of admission. But from the pictures I've seen of Dinosaur Adventureland, it's like it always came off to be like a very sad petting zoo. It's just kind of like,
oh yeah,
this is just like, oh, I feel so bad, and I just didn't want to contribute any money to that.
It wasn't impressive. The price that
aluminum
paid,
siding dinosaurs and shit.
The price that we paid was the right price. Yeah, it was a small metal-sided building, or not even metal-sided, right? It was like wood-sided, old, dilapidated wood, but then it, patched up a couple things, painted, and some dinosaur cartoons on it. I don't know. Well, he got why is Dinosaur Land his thing? Like, I don't even get that. Why is that his thing?
it's the whole evolution thing. It's evolution. It's young Earth creationism. It's the idea that all of science is the conspiracy that all of science is entirely designed. Like what we understand as science today is the purpose of that is to eliminate God from contention. Is to literally say like the Bible is wrong and all this other stuff. So it's a big conspiracy for him. So that's what he's banking all this on. Is that these scientific fields that are really, really complex. It's not like I can just sit down and have a conversation with somebody and in a couple of sentences explain punctuated equilibrium to somebody and how punctuated equilibrium and gradualism both take place and to really truly represent the work of like Mary Schweitzer and how these things all of that they say is like it's kind of like I think one of the things I heard once was like Mary Schweitzer confirmed that yes, fossilized T-Rex polymers, that was essentially their blood fossilized into this. Now, it's not saying that we cracked open a fossil and found blood in it. That's not what it is. But I've heard cats.
I don't know. I saw that movie.
I've heard cats claim that flat out Mary Schweitzer was straight up lying when she said that the fossil she was working on was 65 million years old. That there was a total lie. That she was either forced by the university to say that, and that she was not allowed, to save her scientific career, because she was not allowed to say that. Oh yeah, this thing was only 6,000 years old. Literally just bald-faced conspiracies like that. And that's where Kent is. But then again, he's also a soft sit. So in a sense, like he's free from taxation and all. He's a con man. We all know that. But yeah, he banks on that. That's why his group is so small. Is he banks it on that conspiratorial thinking that the modern world is out to get everybody and like prep for the end times and like drive everybody to Satan and blah 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 blah. And so that's why he misrepresents all of it. His whole I think there's a video on YouTube of like a walkthrough of like their dinosaur tour when they're like explaining various things and paleontologists are just like, what are you doing? So
yeah.
Clive Wells says Hovind believes the Flintstones is a documentary. Yeah, that the humans and dinosaurs lived at the same time, which is just fundamentally hilarious to me. There's dinosaurs on the Ark at the Ark Encounter, by the way.
There are.
He explains that. Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely.
And what's wild is that he has they're inappropriate representations of dinosaurs, but he claims that they are, and he pulls dinosaurs from different eras. He's got dinosaurs from the Cretaceous, the Jurassic, and the Triassic in there. So dinosaurs like T-Rexes and Stegosauruses living at the same time. It's like really?
Well,
really
they'd have to. Earth is only 6,000 years old, wouldn't it?
So we're just gonna take the law of superposition and just throw it out the window. It's like fuck that.
Of course.
Casey Cooper says, Hovind says the excess oxygen caused some lizards to grow to enormous sizes, and now the oxygen is less, so the dinosaurs are small now. I don't see any tiny T-Rexes running around.
Well, yeah, didn't you see the movie?
Oh, no, I have not seen the latest Jurassic World.
Oh.
I haven't. I saw the Honest trailers. I saw the Honest trailer, and I saw the Ryan George pitch meeting. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to watch this movie.
So, all right. There's a super chat back from 4:25 p.m. from Mr. Malort.
Yes, I did see that. So Toon brings it up. I have these super chats starred so that I can get to them. So I didn't want to clog up the conversation. But dang it, I messed that up. Sorry, 1 sec. 428.
425.
425. I accidentally unstarted like an idiot. Hang on.
Come on.
Almost there. There we go. All right. So Mr. Malort said, Toon thinks Genesis is better with Phil Collins than Peter Gabriel.
That is correct.
Thank you, Mr. Malort, all the way from Chicago, member of the Godless Army for $4.99 American. I do appreciate that. So Genesis is better with Phil Collins than Peter Gabriel.
I responded to him at the moment with Abacab, which to any Genesis, especially the pre Phil Collins Genesis, would be absolute heresy. For those wondering, Abacab is an album by Genesis that's not well liked by the prog rock Genesis. So
I'll make sure I didn't miss any others. I was looking at that. No, because I always try to star them so I can handle them. Oh, thank you for all those emojis. There's those Crytangelo emojis. I have a bunch. I made a bunch. I think one of my favorites is my Heil Greg for Greg Locke. I don't know. Are you watching the live stream or are you watching it on StreamYard?
both.
Both. If someone can put up in the live chat, put up the Heil Greg emoji, because I made these in response to Greg Locke burning books outside of his Tennessee church. So we had a giant book burning where they were burning things of the Freemasons, things of the like Harry Potter and like crystals and various stuff, and so like he had this giant we're talking like I don't even want to make the comparison, but we've seen the videos. Something like straight out of like Last Crusade, book burning thing. And it's like, yeah, like this. And then this one, there we go, the Heil Greg. And then, and then one intrepid dude came up and was like, yeah, and he threw a Bible in there and was like, hail Satan, yeah, which was very dangerous. Surrounded by all those, we're talking like 200 people out there who were like, yeah, down with witchcraft, yeah, down with the occult. They're burning all this stuff in this giant bonfire, and Greg Locke's out there like the grand poobah, on his phone, and this one dude rolls up, hail Satan, and throws a Bible in there, yeah, and I was like, wow, balls. So, Jack Burton is in the house. Good to see you, Jack Burton. And he says, I've been a big Genesis fan ever since the release of the 1980 album Duke. Before that, I really didn't understand any of their work. Too artsy, too intellectual.
Absolutely. I listen to the old stuff because I feel like I have to, but then I get up to when Phil Collins took over. I'm like, oh yeah, that's the good stuff.
Nice.
I have a thing with my kids. If when we're out, at a store, at the Mall of America, at somewhere, and there's a Phil Collins song, if they come up to me and they're like, hey, Dad, is this Phil Collins? I give them $1. So if I hear a song by Phil Collins, I'm digging in my wallet so that they can't see me, and I have it in my hand. I'm just walking around like this with it in my hand, and then because there's one that's really good. He knows. And but the others are like, how do you know? How do you know all this song? I'm like, well, you could just go listen to them all. Anyway.
Nice. I totally spaced. It suddenly occurred to me, my brain just went there. When I mentioned going to the Flat Earth International Conference, that's the one that you went at.
That's where we met.
That's where we met.
Yes.
Originally. It was you, me, team, and the other gentleman whose name escapes me.
Hakuna Virus was there. There was a couple others. Mark Beiser.
Mark Beiser, I remember, but the black gentleman who was with us when Nathan Thompson confronted us.
That's, I think, Hakuna Virus.
Hakuna Virus? Okay. So it was the four of us were hanging about.
Right?
Yeah, he had the yo-yos, yeah.
Yeah, I think
so. The four of us were hanging about, and that's, I know Team has dined out on that story. It's so many times. When the four of us are there, it's me, MCToon, Team Skeptic, and Hakuna Virus. We're all just sitting there chatting. It's like, well, what are we going to do? It's blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, here comes Nathan Thompson, trying to angle himself because he's so, so we could actually see him. And he's strolling up and he's like, oh, I don't like the look of those guys. And then runs off. And then because he's a scaredy bitch.
And comes back later.
And they came back later with friends.
With a friend.
With a friend. Yeah, he had one. Hey, can you come with me, man? You're bigger than I am. And then dude comes up and is like, so what are y'all doing? Huh? It's like, standing here? What the fuck? Random Name Generator says, Bridge the Divide, are you not 1/3 atheist? After all, you don't believe in the Father or of the Son, but yet you do believe the Holy... No!
The Holy Ghost.
I don't!
You are a big fan of the Holy Ghost. That's what I've heard.
I do not. I'm not gonna...
You can't argue the hermeneutics.
You're killing me. You're killing me. You're killing me. Lord, it's probing time. Good to see you, another member of the Godless Army. Says, I didn't like early Genesis, but later stuff I very much do. Phil Collins, too.
It's because of him that they had their big success. So.
It's funny, because you mentioned, people coming into bands and everything. My wife recently showed me a video, and it's just totally off topic, of John Lennon singing with Chuck Berry, which I think would be, an amazing deal. Yeah. So they're on stage, and, it's Chuck Berry and John doing Johnny Be Good. And so they're going back in this duet, and Yoko Ono was there on stage. And Yoko starts doing this, like, you know, in the deal, like when when they're playing during one of the breaks, Yoko starts doing like this weird kind of thing in the background, and you can see Chuck's reaction when he hears. He's like, "Whoa!" Like he's still playing. He's like, "What the fuck was that?" And the audio engineer cut her in the middle of it.
Nice.
And cut her mic off. And she's in the microphone going like this, and no one can hear her. She was great.
I've run live sound for churches, and yeah, I know exactly that. I've done that.
Yeah, that's enough of that.
I did. All right, I got to tell you my favorite thing. The guy that was doing the music, I was good friends with him. Joked with him all the time. I had a wireless microphone that fed just to his monitor. I had set it up to go just to his monitor. And I'm not at the soundboard, but I can turn it on and off. It's on my belt or whatever.
Nice.
And I'm behind, I don't know, I'm somewhere off behind somewhere. And I turn on the microphone and I'm making the hi-hat sound. But I'm intentionally offbeat. He's like, stop. What are you doing? What is that? The drummer. The drummer's like, what are you talking about?
I didn't do it. I'm hearing something. No.
Your hi-hat. What is it?
That's how you get.
I'm sorry.
That is how you get people to flip like J.K. Simmons in Whiplash. That's how you do it. It's like nah. And they start throwing drum kits. So this has been an excellent conference. Thank you all so much for all the emojis. The Hail Sagan, Megan, good to see you. Me, a member of the Godless Army, Mystique, Tina Jones, good to see you as well. Surf as well. It's a me, Mario. It's a me, a Mario Rui. Good to see you, Mario. Thanks so much for hanging out. Manic Pandas, good to see you. Turing Test 2 as well. God, so many people that pumped into the chat that I haven't said hi to. Hello to all of you. Crafty Keela.
Oh, we are honored.
With an obligatory ghost. Thank you so much. I get so many ghosts.
Somebody needs to make a ghost t-shirt just for JL.
I probably do.
And then
I need to make one.
Give him the design. Charlie Welch, I'm looking at you. And give him the design so he can at least profit from people knowing that he's a supporter of ghosts existing.
Y'all are killing me. I do ghost debunking videos.
I'll buy that shirt. I'll wear it.
Casey Cooper.
Ghosts exist. JL Warren, 2023.
Is it going to be like birds aren't real, ghosts aren't real with like a ghost? Oh, but good to see you, Crafty Keela. It's been a long time. Thank you so much for popping in. Casey Cooper says they hear you say you're killing me, and so they say back to hoping you will prove it by becoming a ghost. That's fan-friggin-tastic. That's just great. So, but so far, this conversation has been very enlightening. I was very, very curious as to how you reconcile various things in your worldview with how you find that kind of line of demarcation between the content that you do, going when the demand for evidence and everything. And I'm so glad that you're able to explain that. There are many other questions, lines of reason that we can go down. Going, biblical interpretation, we go arguments for morality. We do like various teleological arguments, the Kalam, stuff like this. I think you understand these things, and I think we are at a common ground on that. You understand why these things, the failings in these things, and you understand that it is an emotional appeal, is what it is. There's nothing inherently wrong with that, and your behavior reflects that, which is excellent. So like I said, you're not like one of those Times Squares dude threatening everybody with hell because they're more interested.
Ladies wear jeans.
Exactly. So this is something interesting though, and I wanted to play this. Now I'm going to do a future deal about this, but I wanted to show you something. So are you familiar with the channel Red Pill Logic?
No.
Oh, sorry, Red Pen Logic.
No.
So Red Pen Logic is a YouTube channel that is an offshoot of a Canadian non-profit organization called Stand to Reason, Clear Thinking Christianity. And so he does short videos where he responds to people bringing up problems in the Bible. Like someone will say like the logical problem of evil or the evidentiary problem of evil. And he will like craft this really quick, like 2-minute response to go against it. So someone brought up, so I wanted to share this with you. And someone brought this up to him in the title of it is Atheist Accidentally Affirms Objective Morality While Denying It. Give me one sec. And I find this kind of stuff
that's relative
to just be hilarious. So this is what the hell does he go by? He goes by Mr. B. Mr. B is what he goes by. So this is red pen logic. And he calls it red pen because he uses a red pen like a teacher to like mark where they're wrong and stuff. So to do like corrections. Turtle Moo says, are jail's favorite chilies ghost peppers?
And then I had a response to that.
What? Yes, with a close second. No. Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
What? Put it on the screen.
Yes, with a close second of Chili De Castro. You are just straight killing me. Crafty Keela says, thanks, folks. Me and the Brado are both doing well. He has his first 2 teeth and is sitting up on his own. Fantastic. 7 months goes by fast. It does so quick. And I'm so glad to hear the little one's doing well. So he's such a cute big baby. You've seen pictures of her little one, right?
I have not.
Oh, he is so freaking adorable. Just adorable as can be.
Send them. Put them in my Discord server.
Oh, fine. I know that I have him in the Discord. So, but yeah, she sent me a picture. It was like, it's like, oh, little human. All right. So this is red pen logic. So this is the kind of stuff that I go after, and I think arguments for morality are really interesting, especially when we're talking about like moral relativism and like objective morality and subjective morality. So
morality that's relative to circumstances is not moral relativism.
Okay, so if I need to pause it, let me know, because I've been through this before. So
morality that's relative to circumstances is not moral relativism. Hi, I'm Tim Barnett, and today we're applying some red pen logic to an Instagram post from the Evolved Primate. Class is in session.
The eyebrows.
Okay, before we jump into this is his opening little intro vid, right?
Is this always there?
Yeah, this is what he puts up there. So, like he says, like from this one, Alyssa Milano said, reminder, abortion is a constitutional right and is currently legal in all 50 states. So it's kind of misnomer, but doesn't matter. But he responds with, do you know what else was legal in 50 states? Slavery was legal. Segregation was legal. Obviously a straw man. So he's literally putting straw men up on his like intro vid. Keep that in mind.
This is Red Pen Logic with Mr. B, where we help you assess bad thinking by using good thinking, plus we try to have some fun in the process. In today's example, the Evolved Primate offers an argument against objective morality and for subjective morality. The post reads, morals are objective? I disagree. For every immoral action, there exists a scenario where that action becomes moral. A killer asks you where your family is. Is it immoral to lie to save them? Morals are subjective.
Okay, so that's the Instagram post. Where do you kind of stand on this?
I think the Evolved Primate makes a pretty good case there.
Right. So my understanding of it, given things like the Euthyphro dilemma, in that morality is subjective regardless of the existence of a God, is that because objective means true regardless of position, power, influence, or interpretation, that it is true regardless of these things. Because God is defined as there being nothing external to it that it appeals to, then any moral determinations or moral distinctions that God declares are subjectively determined by God. Yeah. So if a God exists, morality is subjective to God, but if no God exists, then it just drops down a tier and morality is subjective to us. That's pretty much it. That's my understanding. That's why I'm a moral relativist. Okay? Okay, so make sure you follow along with that, because that was kind of my brief accounting of that. So moral relativism, that's where I go with it. So I agree with Evolved Primate.
That's more analysis than I'm going to do.
So yeah, Evolved Primate in the respect, I understand this. Okay, going forward.
Notice the logic. If morality is dependent on the situation, then morality must be subjective. All right, it's time to red pen this primate. The Evolved Primate seems a bit puzzled on what it means for morality to be subjective. So let's define some terms. Pay very close attention here because lots of little primates get confused on this. Subjective morality, also called relativism, is the view that morality is based on what some particular person believes. On this view, what is right and what is wrong depend completely on the individual or the subject. That's why they call it subjectivism. relativism. On relativism, premarital sex may be wrong for me, but the exact same behavior might be right for someone else. Now here's the payoff. Listen closely, you little primates. In subjective morality, right and wrong depend completely on the individual subject. But in objective morality, by contrast, right and wrong do not depend on the individual subject, but on the individual situation.
Oh jeez, the patronizing. Oh my god. I think the word cringe is not strong enough.
Primate has actually confused morality that's relative to situations, objectivism, with morality that's relative to subjects, relativism. When Mr. Primate says that morality is always relative to situations, he's right. But that's moral objectivism, not moral relativism. The evolved primate has confused the definition of relativism with the definition of objectivism. Whoopsie. The evolved primate's example actually demonstrates his mistake. He offers a moral dilemma in the form of a question. A killer asks you where your family is. Is it immoral to lie to save them? The dilemma is, if you tell the truth, your family will be killed. Bad. But if you protect your family, you'll have to lie. Also bad. But wait, if morals are subjective, as Mr. Primate says, then there is no dilemma. The answer to the question is simple. If you think it's immoral to lie, then it is for you. If you think it's more moral to protect your family, then it is for you. There is no dilemma on relativism because whatever you choose is right for you. For the moral relativist, both options are equally legitimate because there is no objective right or wrong decision. For the moral objectivist, though, there is a right response and a wrong response in this particular situation. Yes, it's wrong to lie to protect a thief from the police, but it's right to lie to protect your family from a killer. And this is true for anyone facing the same situation. In subjectivism, the subject gets to decide what's right and wrong, and he's always right by definition. In objectivism, it's the objective circumstances that determine what's right and wrong. See the difference? The evolved primate has mistaken objective morality for subjective morality. Is it always wrong to lie? Well, it depends. Not on the subject, that's relativism, but on the objective situation, that's objectivism. So what have we learned? First, objective morality always depends on the situation or circumstances. Relativism is when right and wrong depend on or are relative to the person. Second, moral dilemmas based on circumstances, like the example given by Mr. Primate, always demonstrate objectivism, not subjectivism. Third, if we ought to save our family from a killer, then morality is objective, not subjective. The evolved primate thinks his ethical dilemma illustrates subjective morality. Ironically, it illustrates just the opposite. Class dismissed. If you want to see more
Oh, his attitude is terrible. All right, so I guess I see what he's saying. He's just putting the demarcation in a different spot, right?
Yeah, from the definitional perspective, he's redefining what objective morality is.
Yeah.
By saying that objective morality is situation dependent, whereas subjective morality is personally dependent, like what I personally choose to believe, what I personally believe. But the problem is that because no two situations are alike, and because situations are context dependent, they are subjectively interpreted, which means that any moral decision based upon the subjectively interpreted situation is still subjective morality. So he's just redefined objective morality to mean subjective morality.
The demarcation is now in a different spot. So that works for him. Okay.
Absolutely no mention of true, regardless of interpretation, influence, power, or position.
Yeah.
That no matter what, this is true, and it doesn't matter what you say or do. Like if an objective thing exists, like if you were a Platonist and there were like Platonic objects out there, and there was a Platonic object that was morality, this is what is true, then God would have to appeal to that Platonic object in order to make any moral determinations. Gotcha. And so, yeah, that's the kind of stuff that I'm dealing with and shit like that. So, but I think this has been great. You got a good solid taste of what I do, and I got a good solid understanding of how you approach this and how you reconcile it with your positions. And I love the fact that you're always open to new evidence. So the intellectual honesty is what is so important there.
Hey, it's been great. Thank you for keeping on me so that this did happen, and it's been of course, very good.
This was fun. I was kind of like, it's happening. I don't care that it's going to be at 4. I was like, I'm going to do whatever it takes. If you said it's like, oh, it's got to be at 7 in the morning. No, I'm up. I was ready to go. So, but yeah, I appreciate you coming on. This has been a blast. And I hope, for more conversations as new stuff comes out and sheds light on our understanding of the universe. And, we get new evidence. Who knows what's going to come in 2023, 2024, so on and so forth. I can't wait to see where these conversations can go.
It's probably just going to be when the aliens come is when we're going to have to talk about this next. So
I really hope so, man. If there's one thing I kind of hope happens in my lifetime is alien invasion. Not necessarily invasion, just aliens. Because with aliens,
is it going to be the Vulcans saying congratulations, or will it be like from Mars Attacks?
Ack. I mean, the questions will be numerous if we find alien life, especially intelligent alien life. That would be.
I'd love that.
Oh man!
Let me, as we go. I asked in church one of the kids, one of the smarter kids, one time about what do you think about aliens, and she's like, oh, it doesn't say it in the Bible, therefore they don't exist. No. It doesn't talk about koala bears in the Bible. They still exist.
I think if the biblical authors were aware of things like the wombat has square poops, that would be very. You didn't know this?
No.
Yeah, right. Wombats poop cubes.
No spoilers. I'm gonna look it up.
Okay, yeah. But if they'd known about this, knowing what they know about other animals, be like, wait a minute. What makes the wombat so special that it does this? This would be fascinating material. I can't believe you didn't know this.
I didn't. What? Oh, I've got it.
Oh,
this is Penguin, our puppy Penguin, right there.
Adorbs.
She needs her eye hair cut there. There it is. All right. There you go. Oh, my earbuds came out. Hold on. All right.
That blows my mind. You that you weren't aware of that. Did you actually like look it up?
I just Googled it. Yep. And of course,
yep.
As soon as I typed wombat square, guess what the next word was?
Yes. Because people find this out, they're like, wait, what? I told my wife. She's like, wait, what? Like, stop everything.
Oh my goodness.
They do.
Wow.
Cubes.
Dude, oh my gosh. How does that happen? All right. The rest of my evening is now set.
Mind blown. There you go. That's what we do here. So thank you very much for coming out, MCToon. I really do appreciate it, man. This was a blast. All right, buds. Have a great rest of your night.
We'll see you later.
Clive Wells says, T Penguin, awesome. Look at all the good. So many people popped into the chat. You got it? Oh, there he goes. All right, so that was that was MCToon hanging out here on the channel. I've been looking forward to having that conversation for so long, probably since like 2020. I've been trying to get an opportunity where I can sit down and have a talk with MCToon, just on these various topics, and he made it very clear he wasn't really interested in debating it, and there's no need for a debate in that respect. I was just kind of curious as to how he reconciles various things, very similar to the way like individuals like Francis Collins and other I would say scientific professionals that are also believers, the way they reconcile it, and it's the intellectual honesty is refreshing, and that's what the world needs more of. Let me see what we got going on here. Casey Cooper says, all your bases belong to us. They absolutely do. Virillion, good to see you. Says, apparently, what is it? Virillion said, it is a D minus I. There were some comments there about Crafty Keela said the picture's very cool. And yeah, so that video, Virillion said, objective morality relies on the individual situation. It's absolutely bonkers. That cat, Red Pen Logic, has like 88,000 subscribers. It's bonkers. And all of his videos are like that. It's all straw men. It's all whataboutism. It's all just bad logic and fallacious reasoning in order to try and squirm his beliefs through the keyhole of whatever. It's like incredulity. It's just beyond ridiculous. And so I plan on actually taking a deep dive into that. Somebody pointed it out to me, and I was like, "Yep, I'm gonna have a problem." Crafty's potato drawer, according to Clive Wells, is many a potato and a baby. Really says, "Wait, what?" Yeah, it's bad, and he's really smug about it too. It's just pathetic. So, and he actually posted up another short where it was like he did like where he's sitting there looking all smug at the camera with his coffee mug, and he's like, yeah, whatever, dude. And he posted up like all these like on his trailers, boom, 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 like all these Instagram comments that he's gotten that are all like critical of his views and this other crap, and then he's like, boom, we're not gonna stop. So he actually pulled the Chili de Castro in one of his latest shorts. So the guy just like smug as shit, just ridiculous. Up and Out says I'd have to watch it half speed. We watched that on Discord last night. We took a look at it and just like kind of broke it down as to why it's so bad. He just redefined objective morality is all it is. Lord, it's probing time. Says I've been very curious about his reasoning about the whole God thing. Thanks for having that discussion with him, JL. It's my pleasure, Lord. It's probing time. Absolutely. I've been looking forward to this. I'm glad we finally got together. Raven Doctor says, stop lumping that twit with the rest of us felines. Sorry about that. My bad. Crafty Kid says, I told you, Clive Wells, it's a wardrobe, not a drawer. And Casey Cooper says, is Johnny too sick to stream tonight? I don't know. He might be. He might not be feeling well enough to go live. I know that he had to kind of step out from the stream on Wednesday. I hope he's feeling better soon because, the log lurgy is no joke. Let me see here. Yeah, that's predominantly what I was going for, Casey. It was a discussion with mutual respect. That was pretty much what it was about. And I didn't want to. He's like, it can be kind of like a difficult topic to broach because you don't want to put the screws to somebody without giving the opportunity to explain their position. And I know I can be pretty aggressive, so I wanted to really kind of just I wanted to come out and be like, let him really articulate his position. So, good night, Crafty Keela she says she really needs sleep. Well, thank you so much for popping in. I miss you. This was an absolute blast. Thank you so much for coming in. It's always good to see you, and I hope you sleep well. Let me see here. So, that was pretty much it. That was what I had planned, and it was a conversation that I've been wanting to have with MCToon for the longest time. This was a lot of fun, and I hope that this leads to further conversations in the future. Where we can, as more evidence comes along, maybe what we see with the James Webb, or with further advancements in space travel, or with the upcoming with the commercialization of space travel and space flight, and where the things that are happening right now, are going to lead to better, bigger and deeper conversations. I really hope I get to have those with MCToon. So, other than that, all kinds of good stuff coming up. So, I got new content coming up, working on a new video as we speak. I just finished the script for, and I just need to record it and get it ready to go. And so you'll see that heads up coming here shortly. And then, of course, I've got new content for Bridge the Divide coming up. Of course, all the cool emojis you have available. Thank you all so much for all the new channel members that we got yesterday, and thank you so much for all the super chats. I think I missed one. Koala Squadron for 5 Aussie said Q is just a 0 with its dick hanging out. That's hilarious. I had that starred. I didn't miss it. So thank you. You managed to bridge the divide. Woo woo. Thank you very much, Casey Cooper. That means a lot. I appreciate that. So thank you to all of the super chats. All the super chats go to help me continue to do this and cover all the expenses like that. So I really do like that. Of course, all the new stuff at the Bridge the Divide store. The link is down in the description. I have all kinds of cool stuff: coffee mugs, stickers, t-shirts, all kinds of cool stuff. Repo Sandman said, you totally destroyed Toon. Or wait, Toon totally destroyed you. I don't know what to do. Oh, we found common ground. My pleasure, Turing Test 2. Thank you. Thank you all for hanging out. This was an awesome stream with an awesome number of people that came in to watch it, and I hope people really dig it on the replay. So, new stuff coming up on Bridge the Divide. Week in Horror podcast every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central, with me, Johnny O, Eugene, Alex, and Aaron, and all kinds of cool stuff coming up. So, thank you very much, all the channel members, all the super chats, all of you who hung out here with me to have this conversation, to listen to the conversation, and to ask questions, and and comment on it, and rib me about ghosts. I love you all very much. Thank you so much for hanging out. So as always, be safe, be excellent to each other, and together we can bridge the divide.